How? Night video. Holy shit. You know this must be an important car vid when I'm in the car at night. Rarely these days do I make night videos. But I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the vibe right now. So I'm making a night video. Very special night video. You might see my family in the background in the window there. We'll see where this goes. So this is the deal, folks. Cecilia, Maggie, and I try to answer questions as a joint team. Sometimes we haven't done it in a while, and we got a question from a longtime viewer of all of our stuff. We basically, it comes down to, I was the one who received the question, and Cecilia's on vacation, and Maggie's had the flu or been sick, and neither really, both read this question, were like, I don't even know if I want to go there. So they might respond later, who knows, but we usually do release 3 answers all at the same time. I'm releasing my answer right now. This might be the only answer to this particular question. I like this question. It's not easy at all. I'll put a link above. I had a similar not easy answer to a question. I did a relatively long video, I think about a half an hour video for one of these joint questions before. It might have been the last one, where I covered some of the points I think I'm probably going to cover here. But this question is not easy, and my answer is not going to be, standard like law of assumption, law of attraction advice by any means. It's going to probably be more, whatever. I mean, you're going to see what it is. I mean, if you know my stuff, you're not going to be shocked by what I say, but it's going to be surprising probably nonetheless. So here's the question. It's long. I'm going to paraphrase some of it. I'm not going to read the beginning. I'm not going to disclose this person's name either. But, I mean, unsurprisingly, this question is about fear, okay? I mean, most of the stuff that I talk about on my channel revolves around fear, facing fear, looking at fear. So, this person wrote, the iceberg of fear floating under my surface has been likely causing me to steer clear of any chance of a relationship, and is likely the reason some dog or puppy has not shown up yet. This person was interested not only in manifesting an SP, but in having a dog, like getting a dog. And this person, by the way, also has a lot of experience with this stuff. They're not like a newbie to manifesting ideas. They continue, I think the belief I am hung up on is, if I love, I will have to endure pain. This is especially true with animals who have shorter lives, but also with people. I have a hard time with disproving this because it's true. I also know in my mind that the only thing in this impermanent world that is stable is my quote-unquote inner being, or my imagination, or I am. But I have a hard time feeling the security in that. Where some people say, better to have loved than lost, I'm over here in my subconscious like, no thank you. Even the act of visualizing snuggling a puppy makes my chest tight with worry and brings me to tears. I had never tried before this, and since this epiphany, I tried and learned that I hit the nail on the head. I'm scared of puppies. LOL. So now I've hit this pocket of resistance that is the same 2 subjects in my life. I did try the scream, let it go technique where one looks for more feelings of sadness and just flushes it out with tears until nothing remains. This has worked for things in the past, including bringing my cat back from being presumed dead for 3 weeks. But this feels bottomless, like I could cry forever. And here are some questions I think I have around all this, but I'm thankful for any insider pointers, so don't let me get in the way if you see an answer I'm not looking for. Number 1, I have done so much work with self-concept. In the last couple of years, I thought I have come to self-love, and I see it reflected back to me in people around me, including babies and strangers, which I took as confirmation. Am I wrong? Did I miss something big? Number 2, what tips do you have for dealing with big chunks of resistance? Number 3, any tips on learning how to be more stable with what is within? With much appreciation, Scared of Puppies. So that's a great question from Scared of Puppies. As you can see, there's a lot there. And I think Maggie said she read the question. She's like, this is like it's like asking like what's the meaning of life, basically. Not in a bad way, like in a good way. I mean, these are the deep questions, right, that a lot of people have when they get into spirituality or just looking at like what life is from a philosophical or existential standpoint. And yeah, I mean, reading this now, I'm like, this person, I should talk to this person on the phone. If I do a consultation with this person, I can probably convey more what I'm trying to get at. So if you have a question like this, like I always mention now in my videos, feel free to contact me to set up a consultation. Okay. I provide initial consultations for free. And sometimes it's easier to convey this stuff when you see my face and are talking to me live. Or usually it's easier than like when I'm in the car kind of joking around. Which is not, I love that you wrote this question. It's just, this is obviously tough. We know this is tough. This is like a mature, no, single answer whatsoever to any of the stuff you're asking here. The main thing for me that stands out is like, so the belief I'm hung up on is Scared of Puppies writes, if I love, I will have to endure pain. And you have a hard time disproving this because it's true. That's what you wrote. So, that's great awareness. It's great awareness. And, I mean, you have great awareness clearly about this issue, okay? There's a lot of awareness here. And, as is so popular to say and is accurate usually in my opinion, when we're aware of stuff like this, it helps. But it doesn't mean that we don't have to look at it and move through it and directly face it, which is what you're basically doing right now. I cannot think of a good law of assumption, law of attraction solution to that awareness that you have there. If I love, I'll have to endure pain. I have a hard time disproving this because it's true. Yeah. I mean, I pretty much agree with you. And coincidentally, not coincidentally, at all. Last night I just found out, I had no idea until last night. Jan Fraser, who's one of my favorite spiritual teachers, and writers, she has a new podcast. Really short episodes. I'll link to it below. And I'm going to link below to the one of the episodes I listened to last night. There's only a few episodes. There's only 10 episodes or something like that. Where she talks in this episode, I'm going to link to below in the description, which Scared of Puppies I suggest you listen to. She talks about exactly this. So for me, I often talk about this. I usually, especially for like big, like deep questions like this, like existential, what is the meaning of life questions like this, I usually divide up spiritual advice for me personally into two camps. The practical, which is like solution based, which is in my opinion most LOA advice. And then like the deeply spiritual stuff, which is like I have a very hard time explaining. It's like very ineffable. It's very mystical and deep. I do not think most law of assumption, law of attraction stuff is that. I think law of assumption, law of attraction stuff is practical. It's how to improve your life on a practical level. The deep spiritual stuff, I don't know if it's necessarily going to improve your life, but it's going to make you understand your life more. If that makes any sense, and it might not. Anyway, Jan is in that camp. Jan Fraser. She tells you like it is. She's a deep spiritual teacher. There's nothing about manifesting really in there. And in this podcast episode, she talks exactly about this, about how living life, being in a state of, she says like, being awakened to life as it actually is, or whatever language you want to use, you'll still have to endure pain. Yep. You'll still have to endure pain. It's not like you'll be in this ecstatic, joyful state all the time or anything like that. But how you will endure pain is with a sense of, one could say, peace that most of us don't have most of the time. And on the more pragmatic, practical level, the question you're asking, it's unanswerable, but I can tell you right now, there's not one right answer. It's not like, oh yeah, you should get a pet or not get a pet. But I'm telling you, there's a chance you don't want to get a pet. There's a chance you don't want to love. There's a chance you don't want to manifest an SP for these reasons that you're saying. These are all valid reasons. You don't want to endure the pain of losing them. It's valid. It's not invalid. It's being truthful. You say, I know in my mind that the only thing in this impermanent world that is stable is my quote-unquote inner being, or my quote-unquote imagination, or quote-unquote I am. But I have a hard time feeling the security in that. Yep. Yeah. Totally understandable. And again, this is, I don't want to make too much of this point here, but for me, those terms, my inner being, my imagination, I am, those are all very LOA soundy terms that will help you improve your life on a practical level. But I'm not so sure they'll help you solve your existential issues of what life is itself. But it makes complete sense that you have a hard time feeling the security in that. And perhaps you want to go deeper than just, again, even looking at this as like an LOA type issue. And I'm not saying you even are looking at it as an LOA type issue. It's just like, for me, this is like a spiritual issue that you're talking about, deeply spiritual, where there's not an answer or non-answer that's like correct. It's just like, this is what it is. And what is what you can feel security in. But feeling security is being secure in instability and being secure in the midst of pain and turmoil and all the stuff that LOA often wants to spiritually bypass and not look at. Being, comfortable with the uncertainty. That's deep spirituality. Where some people say better to have loved than lost, I'm over here in my subconscious like, no, thank you. I completely relate to that. You're not wrong. I can definitely see that in myself. When people say that, better to have loved than lost, it's like, maybe you just don't want to deal with it. Go through all that? No, thank you. Yeah. The act of visualizing snuggling a puppy makes my chest tight. Brings you to tears. Yeah. So you tried the scream, let it go technique to bring out the feelings and flesh it out. And it works sometimes, but it's not like permanent. Yep. That makes total sense to me. The Stop Being Serious stuff, I'll put a link above. I'm sure you've seen that, but the Stop Being Serious stuff that I've spoken about for years, that I was into before I got into law of attraction stuff, That's what I've noticed with that over time for myself and, for others, is these tools, like when we really scream it out or move or what have you, really get active, it flushes it out momentarily or for a time. But generally speaking, the stuff comes back. And we have to keep on flushing it out, and it gets very tiring to just try to flush it out physically over and over again. So it's a tool. Flushing it out, screaming, moving around, fantastic stress management tool. But it's probably not going to resolve everything for you. There's other work you're going to want to do, other inner work to feel more at peace with everything, right? To feel more comfortable with discomfort, to feel more comfortable with uncertainty. So that's a great tool to scream it out, let it go. But there's other techniques. As I know, so some questions that you have around this involving techniques, right, and bringing it maybe back a little bit to some of this LOA stuff, as well as the deeper spiritual aspect. You've done a ton of work already on self-concept, and you've seen results of it. You see it reflected back in you in babies and in strangers, and you can take that as confirmation. Yes. That's not you being delusional. That's good. Am I wrong? Did I miss something big? No. It's just you're human, and you're still scared of loss. And that's normal. That's normal. That's not bad. What tips do I have for dealing with big chunks of resistance? So, I have a lot of tips, which, I think and this is why, like, if we talked one-on-one on Zoom or whatever, I'd be able to talk to you about what's worked for you in the past, and like what I would suggest to supplement that. Like, it sounds like, letting it go, screaming, letting go, yelling has helped. You could try to incorporate that with, one thing that really comes to mind, first of all, I'll put the link above to this as well. Manifesting Through Difficult Emotions, that playlist I have, look at that Manifesting Through Difficult Emotions playlist, because they give a lot of tools in that. Big chunks of resistance, you want to feel them, but you don't necessarily have to feel them by screaming at them or whatever. You want to get intimate with them. So IFS, Internal Family Systems, the Richard Schwartz modality, I'm a huge fan of that. I speak about that all the time now. I feel like that's mentioned in the playlist. IFS is really good for that. Just going to therapy, finding a therapist you like, and doing all different kinds of stuff. We were on a group call recently. Several people were actually raving about EMDR, different modality as well. Looking at feeling the feeling. Hugely helpful. And again, so a lot of my tips for big chunks of resistance are like therapeutic modalities. They're not LOA modalities. Looking at the resistance in LOA, again, people frown on that a lot of the time. Not everybody. A lot of the great teachers say, look at it, face it, that's how to work with it. But a lot of time people run away from the resistance. We want to face the resistance. So yeah, Manifesting Through Difficult Emotions, that's good. That's a good playlist, I think, for that. Things like the work of Byron Katie, very helpful for some people to look at big chunks of resistance. But just the main thing is like feeling the resistance. Feeling it. And perhaps learning to even befriend it. And IFS and stuff like that. Again, Emotional Intimacy by Robert Augustus Masters, that book. It will help you get more comfortable with these very seemingly uncomfortable feelings. Get more comfortable with uncertainty and physical discomfort. Any tips on learning to be more stable with what is within? Again, all this stuff connects, right? Obviously. So the stuff I said links up to this answer, but my big tip for right now for this would be to be more stable within. Excuse me, I misread it. Any tips on learning to be more stable with what is within? Again, feeling it and being comfortable with it being there. But from like a more intellectual learning standpoint as well, I want to circle back and say, to learn to be more stable with what is within, I would veer towards the deeper spirituality than the LOA stuff a lot of the time. When I don't feel good, like on like I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I just don't feel good, and I can't just flush it out easily. I don't go to the LOA teachers. Hardly ever. I'm not going to Neville at that point. I'm not going to Joel Goldsmith. I'm not even going to H.M. Lee Cady. I'm not going to Emile Coué. I'm not going to any of them. I'm going to, in my opinion, the deeper spiritual teachers. I'm going to people like Jan Fraser or Byron Katie or Nisargadatta Maharaj or some of the old Zen, teachers. Because what they're talking about is being okay with right now. Right now. Doesn't fucking matter what's going on externally. What they're saying is you are okay right now. And we can try to link all this LOA and manifesting stuff with that. But I just recently experienced this because I've been, I listened to Jan Fraser last night, and I've been reading some of Jan's books, which I don't always do. Sometimes I read Jan. Sometimes I go months without reading anything by Jan. But so I've been reading some of Jan, and I've been reading Joel Goldsmith now for, as a lot of you know, for like the last year and a half, a lot, right? So I'm reading Joel Goldsmith talking about God and how reality works, right? And Joel Goldsmith is a great manifesting teacher, very, very in-depth, spiritually in tune manifesting teacher, right? He's talking about God and how reality works and stuff like that. And then I'm reading Jan the last couple of days. And I'm like, Goldsmith is so fucking full of shit when it comes to the deepest stuff compared to what Jan's saying. And I don't mean that as a criticism of Goldsmith. I love Goldsmith. And listen, I'm full of shit. We're all full of shit. But for the person, for Scared of Puppies asking this question, in my opinion, there's a big difference between what someone like Joel Goldsmith or Neville or Joseph Murphy or, these Abraham Hicks, all these LOA manifesting, change your external reality teachers are talking about, and what Jan Fraser is talking about. And the latter is definitely your salvation, no matter what's going on the outside. So I guess that's why I felt motivated to make this car video at night, is to tell you that. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, if somebody watching this video has similar questions or wants additional advice on this topic, which is a pretty, pretty deep one, feel free to contact me at info@radicalcounselor.com. Until next time, be here now.